Chapter 123 Negotiation Without Art. Compared to the residents of Kyoto who were waiting to see what was going on, Fan Xian had little spirit. He was carefully writing some notes in his study, trying his best to recopy the intelligence analysis report of the supervisory office into a slightly more bookish judgment in the tone of a longtime Kyoto resident, so as not to make those officials in Honlu Temple, after hearing their own input, drop their jaws to the ground, wondering when the Kingdom of Qing, in addition to His Majesty's Supervisory Academy, had created another horrible intelligence agency, and that agency was still working for a mere 8th grade co-counselor. Fan Ruo wasn't in the best of spirits either, copying in lowercase on one side and pasting the note up on the other, saying, "Brother, this is really strange. Where did you get all this intelligence? Why don't you just use it, and have to make the reason ridiculous?" Fan Xian rarely hid anything from his sister, and at this point, even Lin Wanner was not as good as Ruo. He said bitterly, "I was just being lazy at first, so I wanted to borrow the other side's power, who knew that I would come up with such a meticulous and horrible case file. The source of this information cannot be seen in the light, so it cannot be given directly to Honlu Temple. Who is the envoy from Northern Qi this time?" Fan Ruo was actually very happy that his own elder brother could finally participate in dynastic politics in an honorable manner. Although Fan Xian had begun to educate her from a very young age, she was, after all, a girl who had grown up in the world of Qing, and had always thought that being a manly man and going to make tofu every day was something that could only be used as entertainment, and not for long. It's not the Emperor's party, nor the Empress Dowager's party, nor the Crown Prince's party, the soft rice party. Fan Xian was organizing the information on the table while casually responding, "It's the brother of the Empress of Northern Qi, Changning Marquis, and I heard that he's also a great talent." However, the most conspicuous figure in the Northern Qi delegation this time is not him, but his teacher. Northern Qi generation of literary world, called Zhuang Mo Han, as long as the world's readers, all quite worship him. I do not know what price the Northern Qi side paid, even pulled him into the delegation. When the temple before the judgment, I'm afraid that His Majesty will have to give him a few points of face, this want land want money butcher style. I'm afraid to restrain a little. Zhuang Mo Han? Fan Ruo was startled, and a kind of luster radiated from her face. This was the first time Fan Xian had seen a stargazer's look on his sister's face. Ruo had always been an extremely light woman, and apart from her immense admiration for her elder brother, she had always been unapologetic towards other scholars. Somehow, Fan Xian harbored some slight jealousy, said, "Fortunately, the case file said clearly, this Zhuang Mo Han is 70 years old, or I really have to be careful." Fan Ruo was shy and said, "As an older brother, how can you not have a proper form?" Fan Xian laughed and said, "If you really like that old man, that's why you're not serious." Seeing that Ruo was extremely annoyed, he hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Seriously, what I said to you in the field that day, do you have an idea or not?" That night, when the moon was low, the two of them were worrying about the young girl's future marriage on the ridge, but Ruo was troubled for a while. But when she saw that none of the young talents around her had caught her eye, she had no choice but to leave it at that. At this time, Fan Xian remembered a thing, frowned and said, "Last time when we met the saint on the banks of the Lujing River, did he say a word?" "What words?" Fan Ruo rarely showed a confused look. It looked like the siblings were too shocked at the time and their memories were a little fuzzy. Fan Xian closed his eyes for a long time, then suddenly opened his eyes, slammed the desktop, and exclaimed, "The saint wants to arrange a marriage for you." "Huh?" Fan Ruo was shocked. If there was one thing that children of official families were most afraid of, if they were lucky enough to be matched with Fan Xian like Lin Wanner, it would be fine. If it's like Ren Shaoqing of Taishan Temple, matched with a tigress princess, who is not allowed to have a good life, then it will be miserable. And in all the marriage arrangements, the most terrible is from the palace of the marriage. The sacred will cannot be violated. Even if you let you go to marry a playboy, you cannot find a place to reason to go. If in previous years the official family still existed to send their daughters to the palace, in order to invite the favor of the holy, but the emperor is not good at female sex, this road is not possible. along with the crown prince and the adult two princes, also dared not accept more concubines, although the crown prince's reputation for good sex spread all over Kyoto, but in the East Palace, but also only cold and quiet 3 concubines. Fan Ruo also remembered the words that His Majesty seemed to have said unintentionally, and was horrified. Her eyes gradually flooded with tears, and she said in a trembling voice, "What can we do then?" Fan Xian's brain was moving very fast, and he immediately calculated the possible families in his heart. Narrowing his eyes, he said, "The eldest prince, the second prince, and King Jing's son, even though my father is only a minister. With the status of the Fan family, I guess that His Majesty's choice for a relative will only be amongst these 3 people. In case you want to choose which minister's son to marry, then you are not afraid. If you are not happy, I naturally have a way to push the marriage." If the object of the proposed marriage was the son of a minister and his sister was unwilling, Fan Xian would naturally think of many ways. After all, behind himself now stood his father, Chen Pingping, and Lord Chancellor. The so-called Trinity of Bulls, even the Crown Prince of the Eastern Palace, was now trying to pull himself together. As long as it wasn't those 2 princes and Prince Jing, Fan Xian had this confidence to stir up all the marriages his sister wasn't happy about. But the biggest possibility was still those 3 young noblest. Fan Xian was quiet for a while, and suddenly couldn't help but open his mouth to curse. "I said that Li Hongqing, the boy who strolls around greenhouses every day, prefers not to get married, so it turns out that he's waiting here." Looking at his sister's frightened expression, Fan Xian smiled and comforted. "The eldest prince has been fighting in the Western barbarians for many years, and I heard that he's also a great warrior. Although the second prince has never met him, I've heard that he's also an extremely powerful character. As for King Jing's son Li Hongqing, this guy, our brother and sister are familiar with, in addition to the temperament of some flowers, but there is no bad place. If you really want to marry Li Hongqing in the future, I'm on your side, not to mention the greenhouse, even concubines. I will not let him accept a room, sister, rest assured." If he didn't comfort him, Fan Ruo felt more and more that this matter was real, and seemed to be coming soon, and said sadly, "Brother, but I don't want to marry any of these 3 people." Fan Xian sighed, "Do not want to continue to explore this growing pains," softly joked, "What's wrong? The future to see you, can have to honor a what consort, in case the second prince in the future really became the emperor, you mother of the world. Will not become my old mother?" This joke is very not funny, so Ruo did not break into laughter. The study room in awkward silence. In the silence, brother and sister have their own affairs of the heart. If the heart is a piece of confusion, Fan Xian heart is a piece of determination. In the future, if there is really something, they have to prepare some means to do. The place of negotiation is not very spacious. It is located in the biggest room of Honglu Temple. Between the envoys of Northern Qi and the reception officials of Qing, they didn't set up an extremely long table, but just sat on their respective chairs like gossiping in general, with tea on the table, talking about things in general. Fan Xian insisted on sitting on the lowest and most inconspicuous chair, coldly watching the scene and thinking of a word from his previous life, tea party. Although he was nominally the deputy reception envoy, since the process hadn't yet entered the final part and he insisted on sitting at the bottom, the Honglu Temple officials couldn't do much about it. Under the gentle words exchange, "There are hidden swords and shadows," said not long, and the battlefield has seen the 2 countries' ministers' tone began to gradually high up. Some anxious ministers' buttocks have even been about to leave the chair surface. "Humph. I wonder if this battle in the northern border, is it you Northern Qi that won, or my dynasty?" A 6th-grade chief minister in the Honglu Temple could no longer hold back the other party's unreasonable claims and stood up to sternly rebuke. "The war is much perilous. My Majesty of Daki is worried about the subjects of the world, so he has mercifully stopped the war, and before the victory is decided, how can we know who is the winner? If the envoys of the Northern Qi country didn't have thick skin, they couldn't have been sent to be the tip of the spear." And looking at the mustache guy talking about it as a matter of course, even the always calm Fan Xian couldn't wait to rush forward to beat him up. Honglu Temple Minister Xian Qiji smiled faintly, but Fan Xian could see a few hints of sinister in this smile, which was the bottom of Qing's 20 years of victorious battles. He only heard this senior official of the Qing kingdom say softly, "In that case, your envoy please return, and between you and I, we will fight one more time, and after we really win or lose, then we will come back to negotiate." What is this? This is a naked threat. This is naked state terrorism. This is naked hooliganism. Fan Xian didn't show any shocked expression on his face, but deep inside he was marveling. This young Secretary Xian really dares to say it. As expected, as soon as this statement was made, the northern Qi side began to attack the officials of the Qing state for speaking out indiscriminately, causing an irreparable impact on the friendship between the two countries, but unexpectedly, Xian Shaoqing continued to coldly return, "Between your two countries and mine, when has such a thing as friendship ever existed?" Wei Xiaobao negotiating is probably this kind of demeanor. Fan Xian skid in his heart, Hall Honglu Temple young secretary, even the two countries to play a rogue in the interaction. If not the Qing country is really strong, such a situation will never appear. Honglu Temple negotiations has always been well coordinated. Red face, black face take turns on the field. Sure enough, there is immediately another main thin face full of benevolence stand up. All adults do not forget their own duties. Do not because of emotional excitement, and affect His Majesty's original intention of repairing the two countries' good. Both sides whisked their sleeves away. The tea party ended there. The top officials have brightened up their stature, and the real fight at the negotiation table are given to the subordinates of those laborious lower-level officials to do. Just negotiation into a deadlock, a moment shall not move forward. And the North Qi mission, that generation of everyone Zhuangya Mohan, into the palace, and the Empress Dowager spoke once, will rarely come out to see people. Fan Xian felt some wonder. That old man is to vacation.